Breaking alert. An opportunity is flashing across the league radar, and the Lakers are already tracking it. Did you feel that little shockwave when a rumor stops sounding like chatter and starts sounding like a plan? What if I told you the front office has circled one name in thick purple marker, a name that could harden the paint, unlock Anthony Davis as a free-roaming terror, and give LeBron the kind of defensive floor that buys him fresh four-quarter legs? What if the Nets era in Los Angeles is built on something simple, reliable, and ruthless at the rim? Because tonight the conversation has a center, Walker Kessler. Before we dive into how this changes the blueprint, do me a quick favor that keeps this community alive and make sure you never miss a drop. Hit subscribe, throw a like, and turn on notifications. This channel is for diehards who want clarity instead of noise. And when the Lakers line up a target that actually fits the identity of winning basketball, we break it down like you're sitting in the room. Let's start with why the name matters. Kessler is linked with a purpose. Not just a block chaser, but a possession saver. He eats vertical space without fouling, he makes drivers think twice on the second step, and he finishes a defensive trip by owning the rebound. That's the quiet math title teams live on. Fewer layups, fewer free throws against, more ankles turning back toward the other basket. Pair that with Davis, who is at his best as the shark roaming from the nail and detonating actions late. And suddenly a D isn't the lifeguard for 40 minutes. He's the ambush predator your favorite scorer forgets about until the shot is on his fingertips. Give Davis a true rim partner, and you unlock his most dangerous version. The one that stalks, feints, and closes from the blind spot. Offensively, nobody is asking Kessler to be Hakeem. The ask is playoff simple. Screen with force, re-screen without fouling. Hit angles that free ball handlers, rim run like a siren, and finish through contact. Put him in double drag with a downhill guard and a D lifting to the elbow, and you've created a clock-eating, decision-forcing action. Set horns with a D on the other elbow, run Chicago action on the wing, and make the low man choose between tagging the roller or giving up a back cut. None of that requires post touches. It requires discipline. It is repetition that travels in May, and when a big doesn't need the ball to feel involved, your stars eat first and your role players get clean, predictable looks. Timeline matters. LeBron's minutes will be curated. The regular season needs a defensive floor that keeps games tidy, so his burst can be surgical instead of exhaustive. Guards play braver when they know a missed floater isn't a live ball runway for the opponent. Wings fight over screens when getting beat isn't a death sentence. The whole roster grows 2 inches when the back line is trustworthy. That's not just scheme. That's culture. And culture is what the best teams cash in during the last 5 minutes. Mechanics matter too. Kessler's on a rookie scale deal that leads toward restricted free agency if an extension isn't signed. That means real leverage lives with Utah in the short term and matching rights later. So any road to Los Angeles is grown-up business, assets that make sense for the Jazz, timing that lines up with the cap, and a willingness to pay for what winning costs. If they view him as a tent pole, you respect that and plan. If there's a window, you act like a contender and keep the offer clean. Value without poisoning your depth. Let's put names on matchups. Because this isn't a vacuum. Denver turns every possession into calculus. If your 5 doesn't bother the first catch, you start sending help, and Jokic turns you into a pinball machine. Kessler won't erase him. No one does, but he absorbs contact, occupies the vertical cylinder, and buys a D the freedom to hunt passing lanes and shut off the corner game. Minnesota pounds the glass and lives at the stripe. 2 true bigs who love contact keep you out of foul spirals and give you the final box out on the kind of a possession that usually breaks your back. Against Dallas and Oklahoma City, empty corner pick and roll becomes your friend. Sit Kessler at 12 feet and drop. Let guards chase over and funnel the drive into a contest instead of a layup line. Versus small ball Sacramento or an up-tempo Phoenix group, you toggle pair a D Kessler when you want to choke the paint. Downshift when you need to switch everything. The point is optionality, not stubbornness. Spacing always comes up, so let's take it head on. You can play two non-shooters if your advantage creation is real and your offensive glass is mean. Vertical spacing is spacing. Lobs pull nail defenders down and open kickouts the same way a 40% corner shooter does. Surround the bigs with two threats and a connector who cuts and relocates with intent, and you are fine. Kessler's job is to stress the rim every trip and make the weak side tag a painful decision. The rest is habits, and film got zoom in to the stuff that wins in the middle of February. Second unit, 1 star staggered. Empty corner pick and roll. First possession, the guard snakes it. The low man stays glued because the lob is real, kick to the wing, 3. Next possession, the pocket pass is there. 2 strong steps, bump, soft finish. Third trip, the defense collapses. Skip to the opposite slot, rhythm shot. That's not a montage. It's expected value layered across 8 to 12 possessions that turn a tie game into a 7-point cushion without fireworks. That matters just as much as the chase down blocks you'll see on social chemistry counts. Rim protection is a promise you make to your teammates. Take the on-ball risk, fight over the screen, and I'll be behind you. When that promise holds from October to April, a team plays faster and freer than the spreadsheet says it should. Kessler's game is quiet leadership. Set the tone by doing the heavy lifting that nobody celebrates, then run it back again. That steadiness lets Davis be loud in the ways that swing series-late contests, traps at the nail. Those sudden flyby closes that flip a shooter's balance. Development is not linear. There will be weeks where Kessler looks like a top 5 defensive center, and weeks where he is late on a read. That is the tax of learning under a spotlight. What matters is the floor, not the ceiling, when the lights get loud. His floor is rotation safe today. He runs, he contests, he rebounds, he stays engaged without touches. You can scale that to 18 minutes or 30, depending on matchup, foul count, and whistle. If a short roll floater gets the league average and the free throws settle, you're cooking with more than defense. But you don't need that to justify the plan. Minute map. Open halves with a D Kessler. Then stagger so one of them owns the paint at all times. Close by opponent. 5 out, go a D at the 5, and keep Kessler ready for the next punch. Bully ball or downhill slashers. Close with both and slam the door. Having that toggle is power. It keeps opponents guessing, protects a D from get-too-cheap fouls accidents, and gives LeBron a clean runway when he checks back in. The offensive glass turns into a pressure point. He doesn't need to grab every board. He needs to create chaos. Tip-outs extend possessions, draw fouls on box-outs, and make the other big breathe through his mouth by the third quarter. Every extra shot is a tax on opponent morale. Pair that with a D's mid-post workspace, and your shot profile cleans up more at the rim, more free throws, more corner threes. That's how you bend a night without reinventing who you are. I know the counter-argument. Chase the shiny names on the wing, stack skill, and figure out defense later. Shiny wins October. Structure wins May. The league is flooded with scorers. It is starving for conviction on the back line. A young center who embraces ugly work, who doesn't need touches to punch the clock, who screens with malice and protects with discipline, that is an accelerant for stars. LeBron has always maximized bigs who run and think. Davis has always looked his most terrifying next to centers, who do the first collision so he can do the finishing. Blow. Cost is real, and it should be. To pry a young anchor, you write actual checks. Draft capital with teeth, a prospect that plays, money that fits. But there's a difference between mortgaging the future and aligning the future. If you believe Ad's prime defensive years are still elite and LeBron's usage can be tuned for efficiency, adding a 24 to 25-year-old who makes hard things easy is not a gamble. It is a thesis. It says the Lakers are choosing a nightly floor that raises the ceiling quietly, relentlessly, until you look up in March and you're 2 games better than your record says you should be. So, where does this leave us right now? With clarity. The Lakers should be aggressive, not reckless. Patient, not passive. Monitor the extension talks. Keep the asset stack organized. Build scenarios where you can act without detonating the core. If a window opens, step through it. If it stays closed, you keep your powder dry and look for the same archetype because the fit is bigger than the name on the back of the jersey. This is about identity defense you can trust, offense that repeats, stars who get to decide games from a position of strength. Here's my read, stamped with my own bias as a Lakers lifer. If there's a clean shot at Walker Kessler that doesn't strip the roster of shooting or gut the rotation, I make the move. I believe in what it does for Davis's health, for LeBron's minutes, for the psychology of a group that knows the back line is safe. It will cost real capital, and that's fine, because real contention isn't free. Now you tell me, do you pay the price for a young defensive anchor and ride within a D. Kessler wall, or do you hold picks and chase wings instead? Drop your take in the comments, and as always, if you're with us on this ride, keep that subscribe button warm so you don't miss the next twist in the story. There's also the invisible stuff you only notice when it's gone. Communication. A loud five who calls out the coverage. Early saves you a half step on every rotation. Kessler points, claps, and resets teammates into the right spots. And those micro corrections stack into fewer corner threes and fewer late whistles. Watch his hips on drop coverage square, patient, showing hands, daring you to make a second read. That's how you survive in the postseason, when whistle patterns change and drives get more cynical. He can test vertical, not wild, which means the second jump is live for the rebound, and he's not fishing his fourth. Foul with 9 minutes left in the third. Let me paint a half-court package I love for this roster. Start in a delay look with the big at the top, guards cutting off him like spokes. Hand off to the right, flip the angle back to the left, and send a back screen from the corner to turn the whole set into a lob threat. The weak side wing ducks in to seal for a dump off, and suddenly the defense is choosing between a high percentage rim attempt or an open slot three. Sprinkle in Spain. Pick and roll with Kessler at the point of the screen, and a shooter back screening his man if the tag is late. It's 2 points. If the tag is early, your shooter is naked on the pop. None of that requires your five to be a hub. It requires him to be punctual and violent with his angles. On defense, think about the X-out rotations that killed the Lakers. In certain stretches, one late tag becomes two. The second close-out becomes a drive, and it snowballs. A center with length and timing plugs the first leak and keeps the shell intact. You don't give up the paint touch, you don't trigger the scramble, and you turn a bad possession into a semi-contest at 15 feet. That's the boring, beautiful stuff that wins 4-point games in January and 7-point games in May. Now, the Western Gauntlet expanded. Against New Orleans, you wall off the Zion runway and live with contested touch shots. Against Memphis, you punish small lineups on the glass until they blink. Against the Clippers, you make them play in the crowd instead of in space, forcing mid-range jumpers on tired legs. Against Houston's turbo guards, you protect the rim without overhelp and dare them to make pull-ups 8 possessions in a row. This isn't about becoming invincible. It's about eliminating the cheap points that bleed a series dry. There's a teaching tape element I'm excited about. Bigs grow fast next to stars who demand details. Davis will push footwork and timing. LeBron will push anticipation, where the pass is going, not where it is. The staff can layer reads week by week. Start with drop, add the late switch, sprinkle in top lock calls. Then bake in the emergency peel switch for scramble situations. You build that library in December, so it's automatic in May. Let's talk foul economy because it matters. Young shot blockers chase blocks. Grown rim protectors chase possessions. Kessler is learning how to target the ball without hunting the SWAT show chess. Absorb, go straight up, live to contest the next one. When your five doesn't get free throws, the whole defense is allowed to be more aggressive at the point of attack. It's a subtle chain reaction you feel most on the road when the whistle gets weird. Another benefit that rarely gets airtime: transition defense. Rim runs work both ways. When your big sprints from rim to rim, misses become outlets and outlets become pressure. The opponent's big either runs with him and gasps for air by minute 8, or jogs and seeds early seals that break their shell before it's set. That is how you manufacture 8 cheap points on a night when the jumper isn't friendly dot, and yes, the shot diet still has to improve on the perimeter. Nobody is pretending a rim protector fixes cold nights from 3. But a real backline lets you survive those cold spells without giving away 18 points at the rim. It buys time for shooters to find the ocean, and it keeps games in reach so your stars can steal them late. One more thing about identity. The Lakers that live forever in your memory had an edge. They imposed something. That's what this move represents to me. A decision to be hard to play against every single night, independent of shot variance. You walk into our paint and you feel hands, bodies, and second efforts. Offensively, you feel screens, seals, and relentless rim pressure. It's not glamorous. It is suffocating. And suffocating is what wins in a 7-game series when the scouting gets mean. Zooming out. Think about succession planning. LeBron won't carry usage forever, and AD's longevity is the franchise's crown jewel. Putting a young anchor next to him is not just about 2026. It's about 2028 when the roster inevitably turns over again. Defense ages well when it's built on rules and communication. A center who internalizes those rules becomes the constant while scorers rotate around them. That's how you avoid the whiplash years between eras. I can already hear the debate in the comments, and I want it smart, honest, respectful. How many picks is too many? Which young player would you protect at all costs? Would you rather overpay for a wing and live with variance, or invest in an anchor and live with structure? Me, I'm a structure guy. I want to know we can win when shots don't fall. I want to know our habits win the night, even if the box score looks average. Kessler is a habits bet, and habits are how banners get stitched.